Tori checking in with today's weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies all day long, no rain in the forecast. Daytime highs going to hover in the upper 60s. Overnight lows tonight going to drop down to the lower 50s. Celebrate the holiday season tonight. Yes, tonight, the long-awaited Very Merry Christmas featuring the Letterman performing their string of classic holiday tunes alongside Santa Clarita's very own Savannah Burrows and the West Ranch High School Choir. Tickets and info at canyonspac.com.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
This is a Problem Solver Politics production and does not necessarily represent the views of KHTS Radio or its ownership.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute,
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
They want to get at the table and start acting stupid. All you got to do is come back with, he's your president, he's your president.
T-minus 20 seconds.
I thought I was liberal until I moved out here. And then there's just like this psycho extra level
10,
because they feel like
9,
the way they think everything
8,
should be
7,
is so right
6,
because they live near an ocean.
All right, welcome guys to KHTS. We are in the studio live. This is Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, in the studio with
his co-host, Mark Murphy, attempting to restore civility to the political conversation.
And the driver of this tram, that's actually a horrible example. The captain of this ship, the board op of the show is our very own Killer Cody Como.
Amen.
Howdy, howdy. How y'all doing?
All right, awesome. We got two really cool guests in the studio today. We're going to be talking all kinds of interesting topics today, mostly about technology and voting, some of the ballot harvesting, and to bring some reason, experience, and knowledge to the table, we have invited, I almost said Victor Hugo. I am so sorry. Vaughn Hugo. Say hi, Vaughn.
Hi. I've been called Victor a few times.
Okay. Vaughn Hugo ran for Senate in California in 2016 and actually cleaned up 1% of the vote, which in the 5th largest economy and 7th largest military in the world, that's quite a feat. And we also got back, by popular demand, none other than Andrew Taban, head of the, actually not head of, what's your title now?
I am Vice President of the Democratic Alliance for Action.
All right, awesome. Okay, Vice President of the Democratic Alliance for Action.
Well, one of the architects for the success that Katie Hill had in running and unseating the esteemed former representative from California.
Yeah, we haven't. Mark
Steve
Winger
Knight.
was on the show, and he texted me during the week, and I haven't figured out what adjective I still want to put on this. I think shellacking requires at least a 10%. But when you round up and it's 9, it's kind of like, that's beyond a spanking. To me, spanking's kind of like at 5. So a spank, we'll just call it. The spanking.
Spank.
This was a blue tsunami that just slapped him and others in the face.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to rub it in, dog. We're dying over here. So anyway, all right. So today, before we get started, we do have to. I do have to say a couple of interesting things in the news. We usually try and do news hour, but with such cool guests, we're gonna skip past that segment. I did notice one thing in this week's news though that I thought was totally interesting and kind of comical. That this year in 1939, I double checked. We arrested 2 Nazi sympathizers and potential coordinators and what they thought were spies in Castaic. That's some SCV history right here in our backyard, World War II stuff. You thought that we were just like, herding cattle out here back in the 30s and stuff. But apparently there were some sympathizers out there, my man.
Well, you got to keep in mind that you had this massive German attempt by the Nazis to try and build a coalition, taking the German immigrants and those that were on the far right, and they had a big conclave with concrete emplacements, etc., down on the Murphy Ranch. And being a Murphy, I'm kind of familiar with this.
Well, because you arrested a bunch of these guys in the 80s when you were working.
I had the wonderful opportunity of working with my personal assistant, who was a neo-Nazi, and yes, one of the key members of a large organization that we were able to, get rid of. But anyway, we put him in another location.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's fun. But we had this large group of people that the FBI came in, secured, and they disappeared. There's a lot of great information and stories there to be told.
Well,
and movies to be made.
Yeah, I'm really glad you actually mentioned the term movies to be made, only because sometimes a lot of this really cool American historical stuff, we kind of feel like living here in California, we're somewhat excluded from it. All the gunfights, those were pretty rad. A lot of those happened out here. You know what I'm saying? But some of the cool historical stuff, just because we're in California, kind of seemed to pass us by. But that I thought was pretty wild. And also, a Santa Clarita resident, I just met in church today, this guy. He was a judge for 30 or 40 years, and he put away the Hillside Strangler. And he's writing a book here, a Santa Clarita resident himself, with all the original documentation. They got in their house, and she was saying at church, she was like, I'm so happy this book's going to be over with so I can dump and take a shredder to, like, the 60 file boxes of, research materials that they have on the Hillside Strangler in there. But this guy's the judge that put him away, and he's writing a book about it. And this is the man that did the research and did the sentencing and so on and so forth right here in our own backyard.
History in the making. But you got to just dive. There's so much going on here, and we just have no idea how far back this goes.
Yeah, so anyway, speaking of history, we're just going to dive right into our topic du jour. We've waited specifically for the dust to settle on this, okay? But as you know, the spanking of Steve Knight / Dante Acosta was the result of a very organized effort on behalf of both the DAA and the DCCC and pretty much anything non-R or Trump in this valley of getting people out to vote. And a very controversial aspect of the California tsunami, as they call it, they were expecting this blue wave, which didn't happen nationally. But in California, it wasn't a wave, it was a tsunami. So it was like all of the energy was just blown here. And as we know, the Iron Curtain fell. Not the Iron Curtain, the Orange Curtain fell. All of
it was the Iron Curtain.
Yeah, Orange County used to be considered such a safe house for Republicans, the birthplace of Richard Nixon, even that it was jokingly called the Orange Curtain. And the 25th District, which hasn't been represented by a Democrat since I believe 1977, if I am correct, also flipped. And it flipped in a very drastic manner. For example, Dante Acosta, he won by less. I mean, he lost by less. But Katie Hill overtook Steve Knight in an election that he used to win by 3 to 5 percentage points. He lost by 8.8, which rounded up as 9. So if you take the two round numbers and put it together, that's a 13% swing. That's cataclysmic right there, okay? However, a very controversial aspect of this win, statewide, not just this win, but the statewide wins, is a phenomenon called ballot harvesting. Now, I really couldn't stand the conservatives that you'd hear the next day saying, that's cheating. Well, no, it's not cheating. It was technically legally done. AB 1921 was passed, and I'll explain what it is later. And also, I didn't think it was fair that they said, oh, that's cheating. And then also Paul Ryan with his very famous comment saying, oh, I'm baffled by this ballot harvesting. How is it baffled? Because I'm going to explain it on the radio here in about 2 sentences. Basically, what ballot harvesting is 2 years ago, the California State Senate, and signed by Governor Jerry Brown, passed AB 1921. And it used to be that if you were an absentee voter, you either had to go to the polls and vote provisionally, or else you had to show up with your absentee ballot. And you could turn in your ballot there at the location, because you used to not be able to have late absentee ballots.
If you didn't mail it in.
If you didn't mail it in, exactly. And so they changed the rule saying now we're going to accept up to 3 or 4 days late your absentee ballots as long as it's postmarked by a certain date. And also, a third party can pick up your absentee ballot and send it in for you. It used to be only a member of your household or you yourself could take it in on election day. But now third parties can, which is a process that is legal because, yes, it was signed. However, it's ripe, both optically and practically, for corruption. I'm not saying that there is corruption, but I am saying that in 31 other states, they have specifically outlawed this process because it's very easy for an activist, let's just say for the Republican Party of Kern County, going around to a old fogey's home and saying, oh, anybody that hasn't turned it in, I'll pick it up, gathering 100 ballots. And then, oh, this person, they voted Democrat, and we throw it in the trash on the way out. You know what I'm saying? So there's all kinds of ways that it could be rampant for corruption. I don't think that's really what happened. However, in tight races, even small margins matter. So no matter what, I view there's an optical problem with ballot harvesting. I don't view there as being a practical problem, and I think Republicans need to get ahead of this and need to honestly start doing it as long as it's legal. But there is an optical problem. So that's why I have brought in Vaughn Hugo and Andrew, because first I'm going to ask Andrew what he knows about this and how much Katie Hill and or Christy Smith was doing this. And then Vaughn Hugo, who ran for Senate, actually had this amazing web portal idea where voters could opine online about very specific bills. And his son went so far with it that he actually started an interesting voting app that we're going to talk about that I hope will somehow solve a future potential problem. Because no matter what, at the end of the day, I feel like our voting system is relatively archaic. You go to Mexico and it's pretty amazing what the third world's pulling off in terms of faith in a voting system that we're not necessarily doing here. And it's two-pronged because Democrats seem to be, any time a Republican legislature wants to put in some kind of ID measure or anything like that, they immediately cry voter suppression, which I don't necessarily think it is. And any time the Democrats try and make it easier for people to vote, which we want, the Republicans cry, oh, voter corruption, you know what I'm saying? So there's these two sound bites that don't seem to jive. So first and foremost, Andrew, you guys won by a huge majority. How much ballot harvesting was going on?
To the best of my knowledge, on the campaigns, none.
None? Oh, come on! No way!
But what could happen, as I've explained to multiple people, is there are things like independent expenditures or groups that can come out, and campaigns are not legally allowed to know about them, and that can go around ballot harvesting. And I remember somebody posted it on our Santa Clarita community page, and they were outraged that somebody would knock on the door and they're like, can this be legal? And if you do your research, yes, it is fully legal. But I actually don't really know of any ballot harvesting that happened directly.
Okay, wait a second. What about the college dorms? And keep in mind, I'm a Democrat, so I was very happy with the outcome. But we have a situation here. You now had one of the largest turnouts of college students that's occurred. And
Correct.
We know that if you're in dorms and your situations like that, with all the stuff they're going through, that it would be very easy for someone to grab 30, 40 ballots together. Just think about a frat or any other sorority group come together and say, we got a stack, let's go. You don't think that occurred?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't have any dorms out here. But for any of them.
Well, CSUN exists. He's kind of
Correct,
got a
yes, okay.
few. I mean,
not in our backyard.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of directly Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
I attend CSUN, so no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know I had a couple of friends, we kind of sat together and we voted together, but we also put it in a mailbox together. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I know.
Sounds like you have a wild set of friends, man. Like, dude, let's get together on Friday night. Let's vote.
I made them vote. I said, you have to vote. It was, I know everyone's freaking out over ballot harvesting and because of the outcome, but I think what you're really looking at here is a lot of resources were available to both parties. And just the Democratic Party took advantage of the resources that we had. I mean, I don't know if any Republicans were out there ballot harvesting.
No, it was pathetic.
That's why we won.
Yeah.
Oh,
jeez, brutal.
And so, I mean, it was just, I really didn't know too much about ballot harvesting going on, but I think the outcome that came out was just a lot of resources put together. From ballot harvesting itself, I can't imagine there was 3 million ballots turned in from ballot harvesting, but I think it's a resource, and I think do I see some flaws in the system itself? Yeah, personally myself, I'm not a huge fan of ballot harvesting. Also, though, I'm kind of that weird kid that when I was 18 and the day I could register, I registered to vote, and I was on my way merrily to vote.
It's not a weird kid. That's a good kid. That's why he's here, man. That's why he's here.
I've missed one election in my entire I don't even want to tell you.
Well, just so our audience understands the significance
Been a
of
long
it.
life.
Andrew kind of, I don't want to say euphemizes it because that's not the correct word, but he technifies the speech by saying, it's a resource available. I mean, this is beyond a resource. This is extremely powerful. 5 of the 7 seats in Orange County were completely Republican. We're talking within a margin of 5 to 8%, okay? Both in the absentee ballot, the early voting ballot, and the day of election ballot, until all of the sudden these people that have been harvesting these votes, going to the geriatric clinics, going to the college dorms, were coming in with literally piles of hundreds of these ballots, dumping them on the tables. And by the time the counting was done by 4 a.m., all of a sudden young Kim, who famously went to orientation, she went to her congressional orientation as a victor just to be told in the 3rd week, no, you got to come back, and we're actually sending your opponent to the Capitol. So this is a really powerful thing that's kind of it's kind of a new thing as well. We've never really had this argument, and similar to the stupid birther phenomenon that everybody blames Trump for. People forget that actually Hillary Clinton was the first
It's
booter.
always Hillary. It's always Hillary. Yeah, don't birther thing. Let's go back.
Her primary invented the birther thing.
Well,
let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought here.
Because I want to go back to what you said, that this is a new thing. I'm Irish. I don't know if you paid any attention to what happened in Chicago or Dallas. I mean,
where they cut their hair to go vote twice, where they shaved to go vote twice.
You didn't even have to shave. You just brought. Okay.
Well, it's actually McMurphy, not Murphy.
We were good at ballot harvesting, or whatever you wanted to call it. We were really good at it.
Yeah, but you would hope that technology would then improve this process instead of give us the same 1800s problems. And the only reason why I say it's new is that people sometimes forget that the original birthers weren't Republicans. They were actually Democrats in the primary trying to get rid of Barack Obama from fighting Hillary. And also, the first ballot harvesters, I was reading into this, were 2016 and 2017 special elections that were held amongst the Democrats. The first people to cry foul about ballot harvesting were actually Northern California Democrats who got smoked by and were primaried by people on the left through ballot harvesting. So this is a big deal. Anyway, so we've covered what ballot harvesting is. We know what it is. This is where Vaughn's going to come in.
Well, before you go on, can I clarify something? And I think there's a little bit of a disconnect, and it's you talk about the perception, and the perception is that 100% of the precincts were coming in on the night of the election. So 100% were declared as being the official vote, and the media wants to immediately call it one way or the other. But 3/4, somewhere in there, of the voters voted by absentee ballot, and those weren't included. So you have about 6 million of the 14 million votes weren't counted. But yet it came across as we had 100% of the votes in. So that slow trickle where those absentees kept going, and young Kim, went from having a pretty significant lead to losing. It had that appearance of it being a setup where it was a little bit of, it's a misnomer, and it's really unfortunate because it's allowing the entire process to get tainted here. Because really, the votes were being counted, and those are the absentee. I vote absentee. I don't know if you guys do. I'm not going to go to a polling place. I'd rather just mail it in and be done with it. But my vote probably wasn't counted till 3-4 days later.
Now, I just do have to say, for those of you that aren't watching on Facebook Live, you should tune in because Vaughn is in the wrong profession. I mean, he's got a great Miami Vice hairdo, and with those headsets, you look like you should be on a sports show, dude.
Cue the Jan Hammer soundtrack there.
You should be talking politics. You should be talking football, bro. Yeah. So anyway, okay, continue, as you were saying.
One other thing. You also had this time, I don't know if this is new, but we had the libraries. You had other drop points. There was 11 polling stations that were set up early, weeks in advance, for people to be able to drop off. That gave us lots of flexibility.
Well, one of the issues, that keeps happening is because if you actually look on Secretary of State website, LA County or Ventura County, it says 100% precinct reporting with like a little question mark next to it, and you can click it. And what it does say, because I don't know if any of you have actually gone to Norwalk to view the process of how they count ballots. Anybody who says we have massive voter fraud is a joke, because they really should go and look at the process. The way it works is really what they're kind of releasing, at least when I was sitting through the orientation of Norwalk's counting process, was what you are seeing on that night is really the mail-in ballots that had come in beforehand. And by the time because they still get they get helicopters to bring in the ballots and everything, so you're really not going to be seeing the results for a while. And the reason that the new updates are released every Tuesday and Friday is because That's actually when they do it themselves. They go through the entire process of validating the signature, validating the person, making sure all this information is correct, and then it gets separated from the envelope and the ballot, and then the ballot gets put into a little box, and then it goes into a very secured off room that nobody's actually like allowed inside, and then on those Tuesdays and Thursdays they put it through the machine, and then that's how the results are being counted out. And then that's why they release them on Tuesday and Friday, because that's actually themselves when they are knowing. So it's a super transparent process. It's just a very time-consuming process. And the reason why there's like these, I think, 3-4 day gaps in between everything is because the verification process that they're going through, your official ballot or a provisional ballot and all of that, it's so time-consuming.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Andrew here that I have to say I have a very high percentage of faith in our voting system. I really do feel like it's very, very good. I would say it's not 100%, but I'd say it's probably like 99.3 to 99.4, secure, I would believe. However, this is where the conservative aspect of me, I always have viewed myself as very socially liberal, but very fiscally conservative and kind of constitutionally conservative. The constitutional conservative me comes out very porcupine-pinned just because I want nothing to erode the faith of I don't care of the American public, at least in the voting process. I don't care if the faith of an individual president is eroded. I don't care if the faith of an individual candidate or a party or whatever is eroded, because that can recover. But what cannot recover is faith in this process. And the only reason why I wouldn't say I fear this ballot harvesting thing, but I recognize a very high risk potential for a loss of faith in the system because of the optics of it. Both sides can declare, sore loser style, that the election was stolen. And if you look what's happened with Donald Trump in the arguing about the potential Russian hacking, which we all know is a farce, and then also the election before that, the disrespect of George W. Bush because of the electoral, college flop, even dating back to Grover Cleveland when he was elected. This is a problem we don't want to be having once every generation, right? So anyway, Vaughn Hugo's going to give us a really interesting...
We're going to give you a pass on the Bush one right from the very beginning, just as a Democrat.
The hanging chads?
We're just going to give you a pass on that because there are a lot of us who still ache from that manipulation of the congressional system, of the fact that our judges were literally bought in the decision-making process and what happened there at the Supreme Court.
Well, so now you know how Obamacare was passed. That's like now you're feeling my pain, dog.
We feel your pain. We feel our pain. It's mutual.
So anyway, we're going to take a brief break here, and we're going to come back. Vaughn Hugo has got a super interesting career. He ran for the Senate, all right, up against Dianne Feinstein only 2 years ago and walked away with 1% of the vote.
No, I was actually going for Barbara Boxer.
Or Barbara Boxer. Sorry, I take that back. Okay. Anyway, he got 1% of the vote, which is super impressive. And part of his platform was a voters portal 2.0. So like many things, I think technology has a huge role to play in the future of this republic. So he's going to talk to us a little about this cool app and this new technology he thinks that might cure some of these problems. And then we'll probably argue about other stuff. This is Problem Solver Politics at 727.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Hey, it's Aaron Daltori checking in with today's weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies all day long, no rain in the forecast. Daytime highs going to hover in the upper 60s. Overnight lows tonight going to drop down to the lower 50s. Celebrate the holiday season tonight. Yes, tonight, the long-awaited Very Merry Christmas featuring the Letterman performing their string of classic holiday tunes alongside Santa Clarita's very own Savannah Burrows and the West Ranch High School Choir. Tickets and info at canyonspac.com.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Hey guys, this is Cardon Ellis, host of the new show Problem Solver Politics, an independent political talk show that keeps you up to date and in the know on the latest political happenings both nationally and here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Now, this isn't your usual partisan political talk show. At Problem Solver Politics, we don't rant, we don't spew talking points. We have experts from all avenues talk about specific problems and how to solve them. And if your party is in the wrong, we will tell it to your face on air every Sunday at 7 p.m.
Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
All right, welcome back, guys. This is Problem Solver Politics. We are live in the KHTS studio. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, and we are here with Mark Murphy.
Hey, you got to restore a little civility to the political conversation.
And we got two really cool guests in the studio. Andrew Taban, who's head of the DAA, the Democratic Alliance for Action. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Or is it Action Alliance?
Alliance for Action.
Alliance for Action, awesome.
One of those responsible for helping Katie Hill secure the seat as our new congressional representative.
Yeah, so he's basically the left-hand man of the left-hand candidate. So that just did the blue tsunami in Santa Clarita.
Yeah, we can't claim all the credit. Personally, I was with the Christy Smith campaign, but as a DAA rep, we helped all the local Democrats.
Look, you're on every website of everything Democratic in the Santa Clarita Valley. All right, so
there's more to me than just being a Democrat. I'd like
you know
to
what I'm saying?
clarify.
And then we also got in the studio Vaughn Hugo, who's an Arroyo Seco junior high teacher who also ran for Senate, stole 1% of the vote from Barbara Boxer, and has all kinds of awesome technological experience. We're talking ballot harvesting, some of the potential risks involved with it, and how I really think technology could help us out. For those of you that are just tuning in, ballot harvesting in a nutshell is a change in rules that happened in 2016 where absentee ballot voters could turn in their absentee ballots to a third party who would then take it to a voting location or a polling location to turn it in. This process it is legal in our state, but has been outlawed in 31 to 35 other states.
That does include a lot of those who lost the Civil War, and we know why they were trying to restrict balloting.
Oh, half these states weren't even around in the Civil War that have outlawed ballot harvesting, so it's a pretty bipartisan affair.
I never followed Nevada on anything.
You never followed Harry Reid? Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, was a senator from Nevada.
I do not want to follow Nevada.
You're right. It's probably a good idea. But anyway, so I've always thought there's this dichotomy in American politics that whenever Republicans come out and they say, okay, they want IDs, they want voter integrity, it's called voter suppression by the Democrats. And whenever Democrats come out and say, we want easier access for the disabled or else for this minority group or for those people that may not have ID or whatever, it's automatically decried by the other side as ballot harvesting, cheating, so on and so forth. And both of those are only partially true. And like most social problems in our country, I really believe technology has a huge role to play in the advancement of that group. So Vaughn, tell us, first off, tell us a little bit about your campaign and brag about how cool you are. And then tell us about this app and this portal that you developed and how you think it could help us out in our scenario nowadays.
Well, it's funny that I'm on Problem Solver Radio because that's essentially why I ran for office. I saw a problem, and I've always had the attitude you either step up or shut up. And I was sick of complaining, and I had a potential
You're not
solution.
supposed to say shut up in public education, dog.
I don't say it to students. I'm saying either shut yourself up. But anyways, so I decided, I'm an 8th grade school teacher, science and history, and there was always a disconnect. Like I can look at my congressman, I could look at Steve Knight, and I could look at how he voted on a bill, but I couldn't get any explanation.
It's a huge frustration when you meet these guys personally.
Right.
Oftentimes, even with Democrats, like I have been swayed by speeches Bill Clinton gave about bills I wanted to vilify that guy for when he actually came out and said, oh, hey, well, look, with this population shift, there's been an increase in this and that. And even Cameron Smythe was on our show, and he said, I voted for the lumber tax. You know what I'm saying? Because even Republicans in districts where lumber tax needed to be said, I can't vote for it because I'll get primaried, but we need somebody to vote for this because even we want it to happen. And when given the explanation, it makes sense.
It makes sense, but there's no feedback loop right now. Like if they said, look, I think this is a bad bill, 90% of it, but this 10% is great and this has to happen, and they explained it, you go, okay, I can live with it. I may not be happy with it, but I can live with it. But right now, there's no loop. Like, honestly, my vote doesn't matter. I hate to say that, but my vote doesn't matter, but it should. And your votes I don't think matter, but they should. So my platform was pretty easy. I wasn't going to take anybody's money, and I had a solution. And the solution is, why isn't there a website where you can go on, you can register? So for Katie Hill, you would have an individual portal, and then any bill coming before Congress would be laid out in terms you can understand. Not the, let's face it, nobody read Obamacare. They all voted yes or no down party lines, but nobody read it. Nobody understood it.
Well, even Nancy Pelosi famously said we have to pass it so we can go back and have our interns read it.
And that's how it is on all bills. It doesn't matter which party they belong to, but why isn't there a common sense explanation where you can see it and say, look, this is how I feel. And instantly see where it's polling. And so, you can go on.
We should be very careful here, because I'm going to interrupt on one thing
Sure.
when we talked to the ACA. They went through 9 months of reviewing in subcommittees, and there were many additions done by the Republicans to that bill before it got through, somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 80, if I'm correct. Compare that to the tax bill that was passed just recently, where it was slammed through in the middle of the night.
Dude, they were both slammed through.
They were both pushed through.
9 months is not 1 week. We're talking about a completely different approach.
That's like saying who's worse, Mussolini or
Oh,
like
no,
Mao
wait a
Zedong.
second.
I mean, they were both slammed through. Single party rule stuff. There wasn't a single Republican vote for Obamacare.
Yeah, there's a huge
and there wasn't a
difference
single
when you compare
Democrat
them.
vote for the tax reform.
It still went along party lines, but one of them had at least 9 months of discussion and action, while the other one, nothing.
I would say they both were trying to solve a problem.
Well,
they just didn't do it
Let me
bipartisan.
just interrupt you here, because the little convo that we just had over the past 2 minutes, I think is demonstrative of what Vaughn is saying here, because you're presenting a very democratic, media influenced interpretation of how Obamacare went down. Okay, when the truth is both went down the same way. The controlling party rammed it down the other party's throat. Like, let's just be honest. Okay, but nowadays, when a bill comes up, I can see the voting record, open source, of my candidate, but I never get to see what was going through his or her mind. I'm forced to interpret through the media I consume what they say was going through their mind. And if Sean Hannity is going to tell me something, he never gives Democrats a shot. He never gives them a shot. I would give Andrew Tabon a shot. I trust this cat, okay? Right. I don't think he's trying to screw anybody, and I'm pretty sure that if I sat him down, I said, look, dude, you're going to hurt a lot of people here with this, that I'd probably, what did they say, appeal to his better angels, and we could get something worked out, right? But if he were my senator, I would never have the chance to say what's going through his mind. I think it would behoove him to make his own YouTube video or something. I really think that smart congressmen, I don't know why Steve Knight didn't have his own YouTube channel where every time he voted, he just walked out and said, look, this was going to hurt X, Y, or Z people or benefit A, B, and C people, and this is why I vote for it. So I agree with you that right now we are forced, and the reason why there's so much hyperpartisanship is because it is profitable to be partisan. It's not profitable to be a problem solver. So we're constantly forced to see through the rose-colored glasses of those who would want to interpret these things themselves. And so anyway, continue. You were saying you could circumvent this.
Well, my attitude, and you hit on it there, was that if you look at people, like the Republicans, I think, represent the far right 15% and the Democrats the far left, but I think the other 70 are in the middle, and you're conservative or liberal depending on the issue. I don't think everything's cut and dry. I think we all want the same thing. We all want a great country. We all want safe water. We all want to be, not worry about terrorism, things like that. But we can't get there because of the donors, because of the political action committees, because of the special interests, because of the political parties.
Well, we got the new terminology, the IEs.
The
Andrew
IEs
illuminated us.
Yeah, they're still PACs, and they still spend a ton of money. That's a whole different subject. But
and media is no longer news. It is now entertainment.
And it's skewed. I mean, there's no
skewed.
middle ground. It's you watch Fox News and you watch MSNBC, and it's like you don't even live in the same country. No. So anyways, my platform was, why don't we use technology? Why don't we harvest it? Where you could see a bill coming up, let's say it was the tax bill, and you could read common sense what was going on in a way you could understand. It was simplified, and then you could vote on it, yes or no. You'd instantly see where it was polling district-wide, and it doesn't mean the congressman would necessarily, I was going to vote however the people of California said every single time. But a congressman could say, okay, create that feedback loop of, look, I know you wanted me to vote yes on the tax bill, but I voted no for this reason. These were my reasons, and give that loop, because right now there is no loop. There's no communication, and we live in a situation where it's so easy. I mean, I could pick up the phone and find out how many yards Todd Gurley has in the football game, but I can't figure out how Steve Knight voted on a bill and why he voted on the bill. That just doesn't make any sense.
Okay. So Andrew Tabon emphatically states that there was no ballot harvesting by the official Christy Smith campaign, which I totally believe him.
I also said that I know of from all sides, so it's just
that you what?
I said that I know of.
That he knows
so
of.
I don't know of anybody.
No, that's what I get. That just to the best of his knowledge, and he's an honest guy, so I trust him. So that wasn't happening. It doesn't mean it couldn't happen by these independent operators and the PACs and the super PACs and so on and so forth. For those of you that are just tuning in, a PAC is a political action committee, and they are allowed to function in politics, make their own commercials, do their own influence campaigns. However, there is a strict rule that they're not allowed to talk to the official campaign of a candidate, meaning if Mark Murphy were running for office, I could start a group called Republican Middle-Aged Dads for Mark Murphy PAC, okay, and I could fundraise on my own behalf, and I could make commercials on his behalf and flyers and so on and so forth. But I couldn't actually call him up one day and say, hey, Mark, like, where do you need help? Give us some direction here. If he did, all of a sudden his candidacy is flawed. The FEC shuts us both down, and we're toast. However,
but mention the fact that you can hide who your donors are in that PAC, right?
Yes. No. I look.
That's the scary part. So we have big money coming in with these PACs, the billionaires or even the smaller millionaires, grouping this large amount of money and being able to dump it in behind a candidate and, quote, know what direction they're going, but not, quote, have any communication.
Yeah, so we're going to tackle the PACs. Actually, 3 or 4 weeks from now, I've got a cool show planned for that. Sticking with how it might affect ballot harvesting is you said something interesting. You said when I got into office, I was going to plan on voting the way that the California people wanted to all the time.
Right.
Now, my only fear of that is this is where once again that constitutional
you have only one fear of that?
comes out. No,
there's a whole lot of concerns there.
The one major one would be, well, then why do we have you?
Right.
And the founding fathers specifically set up the House of Representatives, and when they overturned that 38th Amendment, making it so that the senators were directly elected by the people instead of elected by the House of Representatives, I felt that was one of the worst decisions that we ever made constitutionally in our country, because the Senate are supposed to be the wise representatives that cool down the hot coffee of those that are worried about every 2-year re-elections. And they specifically built us not to be a democracy, but a republic, because they wanted what they said, quote, in the Federalist Papers, was the rule of the wise elders, right? You know, they hearkened under the old Indian tribes, the rules of the wise elders. So if I'm electing you to be a senator in place of Barbara Boxer, I want you to go be my wise representative, not just to do what me and whoever the super PAC paid for a concert with Kanye West in on the other side of you know the stadium, or where Kid Rock decided to have a grassroots campaign on the other side of where a polling location is. So address that.
Well, okay, our founding fathers, the Constitution, the way they set up was beautifully. I mean, it was so elegant and it was so adaptive, and they were so far ahead of their time. But they were in a time where, most people, it was public service. It was you went and you served your time and then you went back in your business. It wasn't a career. In fact, Washington, in his farewell address, said the 3 things we need to worry about is the political parties becoming too strong, career politicians, and the financial institutions. And here we are. I mean, they really run this country. Those are 3 of the main problems. So while I don't think this is the perfect solution, I wouldn't want to see the entire country go that way. There has to be a starting point. There has to be a point at which we change the way we look at things. And that's what I was trying to do, is say, look, we didn't have Facebook because nobody invented Facebook. And, if you said somebody's going to pick you up outside of here, you're going to get on the phone call and somebody's going to pick you up and give you a ride in their private car, you go, that's crazy. But now Uber and Lyft are now part of our society. It's part of the changing process. So I looked at it and said, okay, there's a problem here. We can address this. We can make it more receptive. Because right now, if you're in a red state, you're getting a Republican vote on every single bill. They don't cross the aisle anymore. And if you're in California, you get a Democrat vote on every single bill. But again, I think most people fall in that center. And if you're willing to put your credit card and your financial information out on the web and have it out there and it be safe, and for the most part it is safe. We all, conduct business left and right on the computer. Why can't we take the political system into the 21st century? I mean, right now we have the equivalent of in a football game when they bring out the chains to measure out the 10 yards. I mean, it's the stupidest system there is. But why not bring it into the 21st century? And I'm not saying this is the perfect system. I figured I had a solution, and I was going to step up and, maybe open some eyes along the way and maybe change the paradigm a little bit. And I don't know if I did, but I think we're heading that way.
Yeah, well, no, you definitely didn't. It impressed me enough that I was thinking, holy smoke, I got to get this guy on the show, because taking 1% of the California vote, I mean, that's insane.
I should also say I didn't take any donations, so I paid for the filing fee out of my pocket, which, by the way,
it's like $3,000, bro.
Okay, no, it's $3,400 to get on the ballot, but for the voter information guide, it's $250 per word. So the $3,400 gets you just your name in there. So to put out a statement, which to explain my platform, I had to. So it was $10,000 to get on the ballot.
And this does not include any advertisements.
No,
you're not talking about any kind of media ads, all the expense that goes with that.
And I'm a school teacher, so the budget isn't,
Yeah, it's super thick.
It isn't super thick. And on top of it, I was working full time. So I would literally leave work. I'd drive up to San Francisco. I'd go to something. I'd come back that night, and I'd be at school the next morning. It was a crazy adventure. It was really awesome.
Okay, so this really excites me because it seems like it's going to be solving a problem that I've noticed. I think it's really fun having Andrew in here. I mean, he's left of like Ocasio-Cortez in half these things. All right, you know what I'm saying? And then
even he's cringing at this moment.
Yeah. Wow. And then I'll get other cats in here who are convinced. I mean, they're near Alex Jones when they're talking about ballot harvesting, right? And I have enjoyed, though, the ability to speak and engage, and this is addressing one of my biggest fears in American politics right now, and it's the actual dropout rate of engagement. See, I have a massive amount of respect for Andrew because he engages. I have a massive amount of respect for you and for Mark because they engage, right? And a huge problem both parties have right now is that, and I'm not going to make up the stat on the spot because I don't remember the exact, but I do remember it was both of the parties were in the 60s, that it was somewhere around about 64% of children of Democrats do not re-register as Democrats because they don't like that party. They don't like what it's done. They see all of the negative stuff associated with it, and they say, that's the reason why I'm not a Democrat.
I don't think it's they're angry. They see this for the first time in many years. It's almost like we're reliving the Civil War. We tend to despise each other. We were afraid of all the
because it's on
dinners,
both sides.
Conversations, the holidays.
Republican households are only about, I remember reading the stat, we're only within 2 or 3 percentage points of that. It was like only 67% of their kids re-registered as Republicans, and a lot of people suggested that was actually just due to the higher birth rates of families in the Midwest, that it actually didn't necessarily have to do with any kind of persuasive abilities. It just had to do with the fact that the average liberal household has 1.2 children and the average Republican household has 2-point-something children, right? So I view the amount of people falling out of the civil conversation as the biggest problem in American politics because, as Thomas Jefferson said, out of the clamor of many voices will the truth be established.
Try having a Republican girlfriend and mostly Republican friends. I have a ball in life. I mean, everything is exciting, and I'm walking down the middle, and I'm saying, come on, bring it on. I'm ready.
All right, sweet. We're going to take a little filthy capitalist pig break here for a second. Listen to our sponsors and buy their stuff. We'll be back shortly. This is Problem Solver Politics. It's 7:47.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
The SCV Pregnancy Center has provided compassionate, personalized, and confidential care for 30 years.
Angela Bennett, CEO.
Positive urine test does not confirm pregnancy. It only indicates you may be pregnant. Only a doctor can diagnose and confirm pregnancy. If you used a home test and need answers immediately, the SCV Pregnancy Center will provide immediate pregnancy test results and uses the latest technology to confirm and diagnose pregnancy. The center specializes in pregnancy testing and confirmations. Make your appointment today.
Visit scvpregnancycenter.org.
All services free and confidential.
Mission Valley Bank puts the community in community banking. They strive to be your most trusted bank. Mission Valley Bank is happy to sponsor KHTS Holiday Music. Happy holidays!
Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
All right, welcome back, guys. This is Problem Solver Politics. We are live in the studio with me, your host, Cardon Ellis, and
Mark Murphy.
Awesome. We also have two really cool guests with us. We've got Andrew Taban, who's head of the DAA, the Democratic Alliance for Action, and Miami Vice mixed with, who do people say you look like, Vaughn?
I used to look like that guy from Karate Kid, the bad guy, Billy Zabko.
Okay, awesome. So Miami Vice mixed with Billy Zabko.
Yeah.
And every sports announcer you saw in about 1998, judging by the purple of the shirt, which is very regal. We've got Vaughn Hugo here, who's not an elementary, an Arroyo Seco Junior High teacher. That's my alma mater, brother.
That is, at Katy Hill as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I'm not repping it so much now. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay. She's repping you now.
So, she's repping. Oh! Ouch! Ouch! That had some pepper behind it. Jeez, that was a fastball right to the chest. So anyway, we just got done talking ballot harvesting, and this really cool web portal that you had invented for your campaign that was part of your platform. Now, you also said that you took it one step further, and your son's now taking it further and has got an app going on. Hit us.
Correct. My son is up at Stanford University, Drake Hugo, and he went up and...
have they converted him to socialism yet?
You know what? He's middle of the road guy. He's really...
It makes him a communist Republican.
You know what's funny? He built the app with two other guys there. They did all the coding and set it all up. And when he came back, I was talking to him, and I said, so are they conservative, liberal? He goes, I don't know. We've never talked politics, which I thought was pretty crazy.
Wait, how do you not talk politics while making a political app?
Because it doesn't matter to what they're doing. They're trying to make it as bipartisan as possible. They're not working for a political party. Their idea was to put it out there, and they offered it up to any political candidate. And essentially, they have now, I guess you'd say, 3 congressmen who've adopted it and are using it. One of them is Eric Swalwell up in Hayward.
Oh, does it have to be Swalwell? Man, why are all the Democrats the avant-garde ones? Okay, Republicans, listen up. Like, seriously, listen up.
This is why they're losing in California. The millennials are now the largest voting bloc. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to politics, they're not engaged. When they were engaged was when Bernie came around. Bernie spoke to them in a way they understood, and they were fired up. And the second Bernie got burned by hitting the Hillary iceberg, they threw up their hands and they checked out. And that's part of why Trump won, is because the millennials just completely checked out on it.
Okay, so I want you to keep talking. I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to bring the attention of any of our listeners that are checking us out. Look on Facebook Live. We've got screenshots of both these apps and these portals right now as we speak. So keep going. He makes this app. And I'm curious, have any Republicans actually adopted this?
You know what's funny? He's reached out to a bunch of Republicans, but Republicans... they don't seem real interested.
They're stuck in the 80s, bro.
And how the voters care.
The Republican platform is good, and there's never a time in history where we've needed conservative, especially fiscally conservative views. Like the most liberal Democrats in the California state legislature want to take down Prop 13, blow up our property tax beyond the 2% limit that it's on right now. You know what I'm saying? And we're funding this incessant bullet train, which is 1980s technology. Okay. We need fiscal conservatism, if ever now, but you can't get it because the only people willing to do anything edgy are Democrats.
It's not this. Whenever you have single-party rule like we have right now in the state of California, where you don't even have to have all the Democrats show up to get something through, you don't even have the governor on your side, you can suddenly put through things one after another, tax increases, tax changes, whatever it is, and it's a group of people running it. We do not have real democracy now. That is scary. We have to change this.
Well, yeah, and so I look at this and I think you could get rid of single-party rule in one election cycle. I don't necessarily fear the Christy Smiths of this world everybody I've talked to says, yeah, she's got some edge. Yeah, she's liberal. You know what I'm saying? But she's a nice lady. There's always that but, and that but I think says a lot. You know what I'm saying?
She's sane?
From what I understand, she's sane.
She's pretty amazing. You should definitely read up on her.
Hey, bring her in here. We'll talk. So anyway, there was a red wave in the 90s that took away single-party rule from the state Senate, which had existed, okay, and stopped the supermajority that was in the state assembly and gave us actually some pretty decent bills. We got the teacher pensions figured out, okay? We got some environmental stuff actually figured out, and we passed that interesting law that everybody benefited from. George Bush Sr. passed the Americans with Disability Act, but there were all those lawyers that were screwing everybody by going around and doing frivolous lawsuits. We passed out of that state assembly the frivolous lawsuit amendment that you couldn't do frivolous lawsuits, right? So in California, we're a unique place where, like on the show, Democrats and Republicans can sit down and can work together, but right now we're in single-party rule with not even a supermajority, a mega majority. And I could see in a lot of these districts, like ours in the 25th and the 38th, like in the Central Valley, where you only have Democrats winning by 3 or 4%, okay? They're in the exact same boat that Christy Smith is going to be here in 2020. A lot of Republicans could actually take that back if they would start investing in some of this technological stuff, but they don't.
Well, I think there's a secondary side to it. I think California, the Republicans have fallen to 25%.
It's 17 in LA County.
Right. But it's not, I don't think it's so much the state is Democrat. I think it's the state is anti-Republican. I think the Republican platforms don't fly here.
I'd say anti-Trump.
No,
big anti-Trump when I talk to the
because the never-Trumpers are the reason why there's such huge majorities here. Not the. I mean, the Democrats have done a great job. They're not 13% of the 13%.
I think it was before Trump. I will tell you, I was stupid enough when I ran to put my cell phone number, my home phone number in the voter information guide. So it went out to 19 million people, and I took every phone call, I took every email. So I had conversations left and right. And what I found is I really don't think the state is Democrat. I think the state is anti-Republican because I don't think the social issues, abortion, gay rights, the environmental laws, those things are not the same in California as they are in the rest of the nation.
Right.
And therefore, I think because of that, the Republican Party has turned off a lot of potential Republicans in the state. And so we do have one-party rule. And I'll be honest, I don't ever want the president with both houses of Congress. I prefer having both sides. I always vote that way.
Well, see, nowadays I want it because I feel it's the only way you can get anything done. I mean, look, in my life, see, I just had this text conversation with Mark Winger the other day, and oftentimes he'll send me text messages, and he'll point to something horrific that Trump tweeted or said or whatever, and he'll say, doesn't this bother you? All right? And that's a constant question I get from, doesn't this bother you? Well, you have to remember, guys like me and Andrew, we don't know George Bush-ism. We've grown up in nothing but hyper-partisanship. Okay, right. The number one news source, according to a commissioned survey in Santa Clarita, is still a mixture of this radio station and the Signal. But do you want to know what the second largest form of news ingestion for an average Santa Clarita person is social media? Okay, and social media is wildly partisan, and that's what we are steeped in. I mean, have you ever seen a president get along with an opposition party in your lifetime?
A president?
Anybody?
I guess I can say I remember when McCain and Obama were running against each other, and they were actually both very kind to one another. I mean, obviously debates got a little heated because you were on two different issues.
Okay, in my lifetime, Dwight Eisenhower.
Okay. But see,
I'm just being honest. I'm being honest, and we got a lot done.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So,
but I think it's devolved a lot in the last couple of years. And I'll be honest. I think part of the reason for this was also that I think a lot of Republicans want to vote liberal, but they can't because of the donors. And the same thing on the Democrat side.
Yeah, you get these watchdog groups that have these, we're going to rate him according to this. It's like, if you show me a bill that takes care of the bump stock problem, okay, and it does it fairly and ethically, I'll vote for that in a heartbeat. Okay. Also, if you will give me, in return, a release off this stupid bill that says I got to wait 30 days when I want to purchase something. Because I'm sorry, I don't need to cool down for 30 days to make sure I don't shoot my wife, okay? Maybe like 3 minutes or whatever, if you're a rational person.
Well, I think we've gotten past the point of even communicating with the other side, and that's part of why I put out this platform, is because I thought, look, if there's a Second Amendment, a gun control bill on bump stocks, and I go in and I vote one way, whether it's yes or no, and instantly I see out here, it's polling 70-30 against me. I go, gosh, people are stupid. But at least I would know how everybody else is feeling.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm in the minority. And if then, Steve Knight or whoever the congressman is has said, look, I'm voting against this. I know you wanted me to vote yes. I voted for this, and reason. This next bill is coming up. How should I vote on it? And make me part of the process. I'd vote for him, even if I don't necessarily like his politics, because I'm part of the process, where right now you're just locked out of it completely. And in that process, it also allows the congressmen to cross party lines, which right now they won't do. Otherwise, they're just going to get flanked by their own party.
All right, dude. The name of the show is Problem Solver Politics, and we have two of the coolest problem solvers in Santa Clarita right here. His name was Vaughn Hugo. Give us really fast how people can reach you in 2 seconds.
Well, it's not me. My son's website is pulsevoter.com, and check it out. It's really cool.
All right, this has been an awesome show. Please join us next week. This is Problem Solver Politics. It is 7:59.
KHTS AM 1220 and 98.1 FM Santa Clarita. It's 8 o'clock. Time for national news on KHTS.